Let's talk about Black Canary in my DC cinematic universe. The role of Black Canary is a legacy mantle, just like in the comics in my cinematic universe. So the first Black Canary is a woman named Dinah Drake. Born in 1915, she would later grow up and be put on Task Force X during World War II, where she would team up with the likes of Wonder Woman, Hourman, Dr. Fate, and Captain Marvel to fight against the Nazis. Unfortunately, she loses her life in the war. But back at home, she had a younger sister. That younger sister would go on to have a daughter, and that daughter's name was Laurel Lance. That little girl would grow up and find out that she also inherited the same family ability as her aunt, her grandmother, and her great-grandmother. She would take her aunt's title, Black Canary, and she would later go on to join the Justice Society of America during the 80s and 90s, where she would fall in love with a man named Ted Grant, aka Wildcat. They would later have a child together out of wedlock in the early 90s, and that girl would grow up to be Dinah Laurel Lance. And she would later grow up, also take over the mantle from her mother, and become an amazing superhero in her own right. Later along her life, she meets a man, Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow in Star City. They fall in love, they get married, and they form a superhero team known as the Outsiders. One day after President Lex Luthor declares the Justice League public enemy number one, she and her husband know that the Justice League are not bad guys, so they decide to hunt them down to see what the real story is. And eventually she and the rest of the Outsiders would also join the Justice League, where she would have an incredibly important job. She becomes the superhero community's therapist. She becomes a counselor at Titan's Academy, and she has open office hours for any superheroes who just need to talk. Black Canary is a legacy of badasses in my DC cinematic universe.